Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. All right. Hello. So before I introduce our amazing guest for the week, I would like to share with you that we have a new merch drop. Ta-da! Isn't it awesome? Wait, how do I get back? There we go. So, isn't this cool? So, it's Lived Experience Expert. You can get it in t-shirts and it has the logo on the back. You can get it in everything. So, for those who maybe don't remember, and I really should have written down who it was I was talking to that gave me the idea for Lived Experience Expert. I'm sorry. I don't remember who it was. But the merch is finally up and I think it looks absolutely amazing. So you can always head on over to our merch store, support the channel, and remember 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. So it's like a twofer, actually like a threefer, because you get a shirt and then you support the show and you support mental health. It's a threefer. Anyways, on with the show. So today with us, we have Darlene Greene. Hello.
Hi, Randi-lee. It's so nice to be with you today.
Where are you visiting us from?
Chandler, Arizona, from the United States.
Oh, very nice. So it's like cozy warm there?
It's almost warmer than cozy warm, actually, this week. Well, it's right now, it's very lovely. It's only 75 right now.
Okay, hold on. I gotta see what that is in Celsius because I have no idea. So hold on, 75 Fahrenheit to Celsius. 23. Oh, okay, that's beautiful. That's gorgeous. Okay. And so tell us a little bit about who Darlene is.
Darlene is a passionate nurturer who loves to help other people, a bit of a leader. In my younger days was more competitive, but in my older days is much more relaxed in my approach to life. A dear friend and family member, I think. And that's sort of who I am as a person. And then there's a business part of Darlene, right? There's the career side of me.
Yes. I like how you gave us the person side. It's almost like you knew what I wanted.
Our jobs, right? We are not the roles that we keep.
Exactly. Although it is so common to say what we do as a who you are, we do often identify with what we do.
We do. Because if you were to, ask, I think in a normal person, I would have said, well, I'm a retired Navy commander that served 20 years and had 3 commanding officer tours. I'm a director of client services for a technology and network company. And I'm a stem cell activation technology consultant that helps people activate their stem cells and get out of pain and lift depression and help their body optimize so that they can be healthier every single day, both physically and mentally.
Yeah, and that's a very big difference from what you said about actually who you are. So, there is a distinct difference. I stole this from, well, I shouldn't say I stole it from my kid, but I used it yesterday and I left it up here and it's really fun to play with. So it's a hair piece.
I have something fun to play with too.
That's awesome. Oh, I like that guy. He's so cute. Okay.
I know. It just makes me happy to write when I'm writing with this crazy little pen.
Right? Exactly. I know. I have one of the, well, not like that, but I've got like one with a puff, but it's like a dinosaur puff on it downstairs. Yeah, I love it. So let's talk about mental health, shall we?
Sure, I'd love to.
Let's go back to wherever makes the most sense for you to share your story.
Okay. Well, I would say we'd have to go pretty far back initially. Back in, oh dear, let's see. So if we go all the way back, I had a very bad experience in a first marriage. I did not trust my animal brain, which you've talked about on your show, trusting intuition, listening to the red flags, all of those things. I didn't know about the animal brain early on. So I didn't do a very good job with selecting a partner. And it cost me my health. Actually, it was very, very tough. I didn't even explore therapy in that first session of coming out of my first marriage, which was emotionally and physically abusive. In my second marriage, which was also not a great choice, I'm afraid. I was married to someone with narcissistic personality disorder, which I know you'll understand with your psychology background, and obsessive compulsive personality disorder. So very, very problematic, very charming, and very, the illusion was very deep, but a brilliant liar, and ended up, that was the one that took me to my knees. I had children at this point and needed to protect them. And that was where I kind of started really diving into understanding mental health, because I had PTSD, I had anxiety, I had the gamut. I was in therapy a couple times a week at one point. I was struggling through so much. And so learned a lot about, I did EMDR, I did, I've done traumatic release exercises, meditation, and healthy eating, exercise, all the things, and even was on medicine at a point in time out of just necessity, so that I didn't just sort of trickle that effect into the children. They were already dealing with separation and divorce, right? And the last thing I wanted to do was add to that. So that goes all the way back to 2001. At the beginning, when it was 1990, let's see, 6 or so. So all the way till really present, I would say. My journey for health, one of the things that I came out of the second marriage with was not just all of the anxiety and the PTSD, but also autoimmune disorders, right? Several.
So that's a really good point. I'm going to interrupt now.
Yeah.
So there's a couple things. So first off, I like how you're like, I'm trying to think of a tactful way to say this, but I'm just going to say it. And it's not, it might come out mean, but I don't mean it that way. How you owned the fact that the second one also wasn't good. Because I think it's important that we recognize that when we don't deal with whatever is going on, we make the same mistakes or make the same choices. My mom was the same way. She kept choosing the wrong partner, and she probably will continue to do so because she hasn't dealt with her issues. But maybe she'll just stay single forever now. That'd be fine with me too. But I think it's so important. We continue to make the same choices. I like saying choices instead of mistakes, because we don't go into a situation going, this is going to be a great mistake. I love this. We go in thinking that we're doing the best we can with the information and the knowledge that we possess at the time.
Right.
So we continue to make the same choices, though, if we don't gain new knowledge or new insight. So I think that's really important to note. The other one that stood out for me is when you said, well, by this time I had children. And it can be such a difficult thing to leave somebody when you have kids. I mean, it definitely is. But it's not just okay, they're being abusive, so just leave. It's, what if you don't have the money to support them? Where are you going to live? Are they going to come after you? Are they going to try and take custody of them? Right? Like, there's all of these things that go through your mind when you're in that situation. I don't think anybody can know what they would truly do in that situation until you're in it. And thank goodness that you were able to clearly get out of it. So yay. But I think it's important that we recognize how hard it can be for some people in those situations. So I'm really talking to the audience here. If you're in that situation, somebody, give them grace, give yourself grace, and, maybe reach out to somebody and see what's in your area that can help you, because it's scary, but you should not have to live in that situation. And then there was, I interrupted because you said the autoimmune thing, but then I had to go back and say those important things. So the autoimmune thing is so interesting that you bring that up, because there is research and whatnot, which obviously I don't have off the top of my head, but that it links certain conditions two traumatic experiences in your life. And we've talked about a ton on the show how the body speaks the mind, but there are tons of incidences where your body goes, wow, I am going to be hurting now, or I'm going to be doing whatever now because of the experiences you had. And honestly, I don't know for certain, but I think that's why my body decided to be like, we're going to just hurt all the time now because of all the trauma just all at one time. So anyways, I think that's very interesting. So
yeah, there's a book actually that I read back then called Molecules of Emotion by Candace Pert. And it talks about that exact thing, that the emotional traumas that we experience can essentially lead to medical issues, physical, cancer even. And I remember at the time, it was so hard to leave because I had these two daughters and I didn't know how we were going to live in this very high range area. But the fear of leaving and the actual getting to the point of leaving was scarier and harder than the actual act itself. So for those of you in the audience who think I just can't do this, I don't know how to do this, there's no way I can do this, all of that maelstrom is so much worse than the actual act. And when I actually did leave, I was so happy. And I felt this relief that was extraordinary and exquisite. And I finally could breathe again. So it was really extraordinary. And I just encourage people to do what they need to do. And in my case, ultimately I knew that it would be the death of me. And then my children would have no mom, right? So it was a matter of survival. But I do remember before leaving thinking, there are women who carry their children through the deserts and the mountains and foreign countries.
yeah.
Surely I can put up with this man in this house one more day or one more year or whatever. And then I was just like, yep, no, I can't. I really can't. Like, it's going to kill me.
Yeah.
So,
actually, when you said that, thinking about the women that like are carrying their children through the desert or whatever, where my mind went with that was, so surely you can leave them.
Right. You would think that, but that was not where I was thinking at the time. I was
right.
Thinking
So for the audience listening, think it that way.
That's a better way of thinking. I agree with you. And then I was basically never going to marry again. I was never going to date again because clearly I don't know what I'm doing. But I did learn in that time frame about the animal brain. I learned a lot about the body, and I learned to trust instincts and really understand my intuition and honor my intuition in a whole new way. And ultimately, I met my current husband, and he's just a gem, an angel from above. He was my gift from the angels for having endured my first two. And we've had the most beautiful marriage, and it's been very, very easy. Like, I had no idea marriage could be so lovely. Every day could be so happy and filled with laughter. And then about 5 years ago, we started noticing some memory issues. And 4 years ago, he was diagnosed with early Alzheimer's.
Aww. How long had you been together before that?
About 14 years.
Not long enough, obviously. But at least you did get some really good 14 years. Well, I'm sure you're still getting good times, but that's hard.
It's a lot harder now. He declined because he's got early Alzheimer's. And I know you had a guest on your show talking about dementia. Yeah. Early Alzheimer's, as well as he has the gene type from both parents, APOE4/4.
Oh.
So it has progressed really rapidly. And he did what would normally take 13 years in 2 years, in spite of us doing all the things, all the things and more. So going out of country for stem cell IV and injections, doing hyperbaric chambers, changing the diet entirely, no white flour, no white sugar, no alcohol, no soda, only organic, only extra virgin olive oil, kind of good.
Wow.
Exercise every day, strength training, as well as cardio, and you name it, deep sleep protocols. We tried absolutely everything, even pulse electromagnetic frequency, microcurrent.
I didn't even know there was all of those things to try. Wow.
Yeah. So when I say we tried everything, we really did. And the decline just continued to the point where he was cognitively age 5 and so withdrawn that it was just too hard to talk. He was no longer really conversing. He was no longer his personality. He was really a zombie relatively. He didn't, his personality before all of this was to be super funny. And every time if his mouth was moving, he was cracking a joke. Like that's just,
Aw, that sounds awesome.
and that just sort of fell away by the wayside. And so we were just in it was a really hard place for me. And I had been care providing 24/7, and I was coping the way I knew to cope. I had learned a lot of coping mechanisms, but I had started therapy because I recognized I was depressed. I recognized I wanted to cry every single day. And it really got bad after I broke my foot and sprained my ankle, and I essentially tore one ligament entirely and another one 90%, and they needed surgery. So between that and the autoimmune disorders where I'm fainting and passing out, headaches, other things, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, you name it. I was not in a good way at all. No. And that's when I would say I was at my lowest, that the depression and the mental illness and even therapy was just not enough, because I think I had pushed off the dealing with the situation. I was fighting it, right? I was doing this and doing this. We're going to try this. We're going to try that.
You were in survival mode.
In survival mode and in fight mode. And ultimately, when I couldn't walk and I had to ask my husband to get me a glass of ice water, and he did not know how to do that. And it took us 10 minutes to get a cup. Let's put, that was a huge in your face. This is where we are. And that was a really hard place to be.
Yeah. My heart breaks for you hearing this. I mean, for me personally, I don't like when people give me sympathy, but I mean, empathy is different. But I'm hearing this story and my heart just breaks for you, and it breaks for him. Yeah, so you had this, I guess, epiphany that, something needed to change.
Yeah, and I was blessed by a lot of support, family, friends, but I had one friend who said, Darlene, I know you know about stem cells. I mean, everything in my research had pointed to stem cells.
Yeah.
And I said, yes, but they didn't help us. I mean, we did this 4 times. And Randi-lee, this was very expensive. Yeah. We went out of the country. So there was the trip, there was the hotel, there was all of that. And we tried it 4 times, once quarterly for both of us, actually, for him and for me. And each IV was $10,000.
Holy moly!
Bank blowing. But I would have mortgaged the house. I would have done anything that would have reversed.
Right. Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Absolutely. So, but nothing. It was nothing. Nothing happened. And so she said, I have a technology that has changed my family's life that I think you would find great benefit from, and I think it would really help Jim a lot. So I said, sure. I did everything, right? Why not?
Right. Whatever can help me and help him, of course.
Sure.
So how old were your girls at this point?
So this was just, this time of introduction to the technology, or the time that he was diagnosed?
Let's go with when you had your epiphany moment. How old were they?
So when I discovered that he was really failing, they were 19 and 23.
Oh, wow. And you had been together for 14 years. So that's watching their dad.
That's dad. 100% dad.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're still, if I'm being fully transparent, Randy, this is a journey of grief that you try to grab moments of happiness and joy and find peace in the midst of what is a very traumatic and very difficult experience. There's no way around it. That even though the technology that we used, and we'll talk about all the benefits, it did amazing things for him. It brought him back to life in the first week. His personality came back. He stopped napping 3.5 hours a day. He was,
oh my goodness,
was absolutely funny and witty and back to flirty and his old personality. So I got my husband back in a week not entirely, like his word choice was still challenged. He still has Alzheimer's, dementia,
Mhm.
right? But he regained certain skills. He regained the ability to whistle and drum. He regained his sense of smell, which he'd lost 15 years ago. And
Wow.
I, using this little technology, I lifted out of my depression. I ended up, I just had so much more energy, so much better sleep. My headaches went away. All of my all symptoms from all autoimmune disorders completely vanished.
Oh,
And
dang.
I got out of pain. So the difference was I was all of a sudden much more capable of dealing with everything. I was happier. I had more energy. I said to my therapist, like, I don't know that I need to talk to you anymore. And she's like, I don't think you do either. And
Oh,
so
wow.
I kind of literally was I was doing that well. And I was doing that well for quite some time. But as I mentioned, this is one of those diseases that it just keeps taking and taking and taking. And so ultimately what happened is Jim came to a place where swallowing a pill was very difficult for him. He would wake up through the night 5 times a night. He would walk out the front door one, and it was no longer safe for him to be with me. So it was just less than a month ago, actually, that I had to place him in a supported living arrangement group home where he is, got 24/7 care. There's only 4 of them. There are 4 residents, 3 people taking care of the 4 of them.
Wow.
He's just 6 minutes away.
Oh, good.
He loves it there. He's happy there. But I am dealing with this transition. It feels very much like a death, like a divorce, like a move, all wrapped up in one. And I went right back into therapy. I go, because this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I knew I needed to do something because I was having trouble breathing. There was an elephant on my chest.
Yes.
And all the things I was needing, everything I was doing wasn't enough. I mean, we talk about all the options that you can do for mental health. So I was working out every single morning and doing cardio. I was meditating every single day. I was eating really healthy, drinking water with electrolytes, going to bed early, getting good sleep, turning off electronics early, going for a walk around the neighborhood, getting my eyes on the morning sun, you name it, plus in therapy. And I still couldn't breathe and still had this elephant on my chest.
Well, and it goes back to something you said that really stuck with me when you said it's going through grief. So many people have this misconception that you only grieve for a loss, that you only grieve for the death of a person, but you grieve for a loss. You grieve for the loss of the life that you had,
right?
For the husband that you knew, for the family dynamic that you knew, right? You grieve for your kids as they're watching their dad go through this. There's so much more that grief encompasses than just the death of an individual.
Yes.
And I'm blessed to not have dealt with the same situation as you, but just to maybe relate to more of the audience, and this is a controversial thing I'm going to say, but when my kid was diagnosed with autism, there was a slight grieving process. Now, some people, I've said that to people before, and they're like, what do you mean your kid's not da, 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 da. Grieved for the loss that I thought was going to be my kid's life. Life has been much more difficult for him with having the disability than it would be without it. It doesn't change how much I love him. I'm sure it doesn't change how much you love your husband,
right.
But it's a loss of what you thought was going to be happening, or a loss of the situation that is no longer.
Yes, it's almost the loss of a dream.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh, when you said so, slightly off topic, but still on topic. Have you seen the movie Wish?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it is so good. It totally goes along with this. So the premise of this movie is that the king keeps safe everyone's wishes. So our wishes are basically our heart. So when he's keeping care of them, he's taking them out of us. So he's taking out your wish, he's taking out your heart, and he's keeping them safe. He ends up being a bad guy. I'm sorry I spoiled it. But basically, it's so good. Watch it. It's so good. It's so good. But that's just it. It is the loss of your dream. It is the loss of your wish. And all of that comes from your heart.
Yeah.
So watch that movie, guys. It's so good.
I will. Absolutely.
And it has a talking goat. So, I mean, obviously, so good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, it's very confusing, right? The emotions that I'm experiencing right now are tough because there's elements of acceptance and elements of frustration and elements of anger and elements of loss and elements of, guilt,
confusion.
even just like if part of my journey right now is to try to find joy and peace and happiness in the midst of this is years long, right? This is not going away today. If I just grieve, I could be grieving very seriously and deeply for the next many years.
Yeah.
And I mean, his life expectancy is 3 years on the outside. That's it. And so I'm having to deal with that and understand that. And the kids are having to deal with all of that. And I'm having to deal with the kids dealing with that. And it is really hard. I don't know that. And it's different. I'm not going to say it's harder, worse. I'm just going to say it's different when it's your partner and your spouse than a parent that's lived till 75 or 85. When it's somebody who's 67 years old and he's, right now, cognitively age 5, that completely changed our relationship to being where I'm the mom or I was the parent, he's a child. And so I'm grateful to the fact that I did reach out for resources. That was what I needed to do I've been trying to figure out how to do this on my own. And I had doctors saying to me, Darlene, you're doing too much. Darlene, you're doing too much. And every quarter I would see this doctor and she would say, I've told you need to get more help. You cannot bear this.
You cannot do it alone.
I really was like, oh, but I'm okay. But I wasn't okay. And then she kind of yelled at me and she said,
good.
I've told you this for the last 3 quarters and I'm really serious now. You need to get more help. And so that's where I ended up having to place him because she was right. It's sort of like I can do all things as long as I get sleep. But once my sleep started to get interrupted, now I'm toast. I'm not able to function. I just want to cry all day, right? It's just not for me.
And I know, again, different situation, but I like trying to relate. And my kid always had the worst sleep habits, still does, but he's 17 now, so I don't worry so much about him. He's much better. But when he was the age of 5, my sleep was so bad because he would get up constantly in the middle of the night and wouldn't go back to sleep. Luckily, I mean, he wasn't leaving the house, but that's just it. When you have someone that you care about, that you love, that you're taking care of, and you worry about them because they can't even sleep through the night, you can't sleep through the night either.
Yes. Well, something that you would be able to relate to. So this gal that introduced me to the stem cell activation technology, it's literally a patch that looks like this small.
Oh.
It's no medicine. It is, it works like the principle when you go out in the sun and your body makes vitamin D or melanin for a suntan. It's like a little double-sided mirror. It reflects your light in you. If I looked at you with night vision goggles on, I would see light inside of you, right? So it's reflecting your light back into you at a very specific wavelength that causes an elevation in copper peptide, which does a lot of amazing things. And what I want to tell you is that this friend of mine, when I said to you that she shared with me that this was completely changing her life, what that meant was she has a daughter. She was 16, rare genetic disorder, very much like autism. She's sort of surrounded with people with autism. And even though she's 16, her academically, she was scored at about kindergarten, and very volatile and combative, and wouldn't do anything from eating to homework to anything without a fight. Very ADHD, took ADHD medicine and was really challenged. So she began to use this stem cell activation technology. And on day 15, she came in and what would to normal people sound like no big deal. But for her, she walked in and she found her daughter sitting at the counter. She had eaten a meal. She had cleaned up. She was reading a book. First time in her entire life she'd ever seen this. She was calm. Her whole body was not bouncing. She said her body used to bounce in its sleep. And now it was just this calm moment. So she said, I don't think I need to give her ADHD medicine. So she didn't. The tutor came, the tutor left, the tutor texted her and said, I don't know what's going on, but she is like a different person. Unbelievable focus today, amazing abilities, and best ever. I think she had only ever scored a 51 in math on a math test ever, and she had scored 100. And then they did a full battery of tests at the 5-week point on this technology. She had gone from kindergarten to upper third, lower fourth grade in 5 weeks. Wow. And then by age, I guess at the 10-month point, she had now age 16-year-old executive reasoning, which the guy who did the test said, I don't understand. She didn't register at all before, and executive reasoning isn't supposed to change ever once you're born. I don't understand how this is possible. He just was blown away.
Yeah.
And what's also cool is this disorder that she has stunts her growth. And all of a sudden she's growing inches up. It's really just been life-changing. This was a mom who could never leave her child for 1 minute. Yeah. And now she's leaving her for hours. And the child is learning how to do money and counting and talking about living independently.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I can totally relate to that, because I've had the moment of, I cannot leave you for any moment. And now I'm like, okay, here's the keys. Go get yourself something to eat. Yes. Bye.
Very different, isn't it?
Gosh, I love those stories, because they're so hopeful. There's always something.
They are. And she has then since helped to patch 5 different families with autism, because it's kind of in her family, and there's cousins and there's an uncle and there's, all these people, and all of them have improved dramatically with this stem cell activation technology, which is so inexpensive and has a money back guarantee. It's just, that's the best part of it. Like, there's no risk. When I started to try it, I was like, sure, whatever. I had done thousands, right? So she's like, yep, it's just $99 for 1 month. And I'm just like, okay, that's easy. And on top of
that's a big difference than the other stem cell thing you did.
That's a huge difference. And she's like, and if you decide after 30 days you don't like it, or you don't want to, you can get your money back, no questions asked. And I was just like, well, that's kind of a no-brainer. At the time, I did not know there were even studies. There are over 90 clinical studies. You can actually look at a patent. Many of them are double-blind, placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed, not at all associated with the company. Okay. And they are, it's really credible. It's so credible. And I kind of got a little bit angry about this. When I discovered that there were over 300 Olympic athletes that were wearing these patches in the 2008 Olympics, I was mad. Like, okay, this technology has been around 20 years, and I have not known about, the stem cell particular activation patch has only been around 4 years, but these other patches that have really dramatically improved health have been around 20 years, and no one, who knew? But you can actually see pictures of Michael Phelps and David Beckham and Venus, Williams, and even Tom Brady and the Kansas City Chiefs are wearing these patches. So it was sort of like, why don't we know about this? I was mad, because if I would have known about this 4 years ago, Randi-lee, I really think that my husband would be in a very different place. I think we would have caught it early enough. And while the changes that we did have for him have stayed, like, he's still not napping all day. He's still his personality. He's still funny, trying to be funny.
Oh, good.
All of those things. Even though other things have declined, those things that he got back right away. And there were even others, like his blood pressure dropped 37 points. His hair started to grow back. His bald spot closed in, and
I'm laughing just because my husband's bald. So.
Yes. I'm going to just share 2 studies with you, because they're so phenomenal. One that you would love, because it deals with the brain and anxiety particularly. It was a double-blind placebo-controlled study done in 2019, and they did EEG images of the brain. And there is a picture of redness, like imagine red, cloudy, a little bit of yellow. Yeah. And that red is inflammation. It is hypercoherence, where the communication between the left and right hemisphere is not good. And then after wearing this patch 12 hours on, 12 hours off for 3 weeks, they did another EEG. And you see a change in the color mapping. There's greens and blues and a whole new world. And they're already seeing a reduction in inflammation and a reduction in anxiety. And in the end of 6 weeks, whole new color map, even more improvement, tremendous results. The results not only included the elevation of this copper peptide that you can go look up in PubMed and see 50 years of amazing studies that we can talk about all of the benefits of copper peptide. There are just books written about it, and they include anti-cancer, and they include great things for your heart and your brain. But in this case, they saw the elevation of that, but they saw supported cell and nerve regeneration. I mean, nerve regeneration and cell regeneration. And they saw improvements in the nervous system and a lowering of anxiety. They saw the decreased brain inflammation and improved memory, focus, and cognition. Even task processing was improved. And that with the more complex the task, the more improved the task processing. So amazing studies. But I did not know about these studies when I started. I just was desperate, and I would try anything, right? And now I got to see, before I even knew about the study, I got to sort of watch the results happen for my husband and for myself, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's so cool. That, I'm just like thinking about all of those studies. And like you said, it's been around for 20 years and yet nobody's talked about it.
Yeah, I'll tell one other story about a study, and that's this, because I love this study. You know, so many people one of my autoimmune disorders was POTS, which is postural tachycardia. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I've heard. Well, I'm not super familiar, but I have heard of it.
Yeah, so I would stand up or even just get overheated and pass out. And I'd fallen and hit my head against the bathtub one time. I'd fallen and hit my head against the, just fainted, not really fallen, but passed out.
Yeah.
And hit my head on a door jamb. I was grounded for 2 weeks while they were trying to figure out what was going on with me. This was back when I was in the Navy. And ultimately they said, yes, you have POTS, and we want to put you on a medicine that increases your blood pressure. And I said, that sounds like a terrible idea, actually. I don't like that at all. And they're like, well, that's just the only option. You can eat more salt, but that's, so I did. I ate more salt for a long time, but that ultimately wasn't enough. And I ended up needing to go on this medicine to increase my blood pressure. Well, in this double-blind placebo-controlled study on the heart, they found that in just 6 weeks, participants saw such amazing improvements in their vascular system, which is really top of your head to the bottom of your feet, right? Our blood vessels are everywhere. And specifically, every 6 weeks, the cardiovascular system began functioning as if it were 8 weeks younger. And so I think what happened is my whole cardiovascular system just got revamped. Now I get enough blood to my head and to my brain, and I don't pass out, and I don't have to take this blood pressure. I don't have to take any medicine anymore. It's just fantastic.
That is fantastic. Yeah. As soon as you said increase your blood pressure, I'm like, don't we not like that? Isn't that a bad thing?
Mine is really low, like scary low.
Okay. Huh. Mine's low, but normal low. So
okay, good.
I don't hit scary yet.
Good. That's perfect.
Oh my goodness. So before we kind of wrap up, I always like to pose a question. So what piece of wisdom would you give to somebody who is going through getting the diagnosis that their loved one has early onset?
Wow. I would say don't wait to get support. Get into an Alzheimer's support group early. There's so much wisdom in the group. I didn't do that for 3.5 years. Like I would say actually almost 4 years. Like I think part of me just wasn't ready to accept it, and I didn't want to see what it was gonna be like, because it could be very discouraging, right?
Yeah.
But in the process of actually doing that, I have learned all about resources that are available to me that I could have been using earlier, that I think, and I think I would have been kinder and gentler to myself. And that's probably the other piece of advice, really. It's not just to go get resources and support, but you have to take care of yourself through this process. It's a long journey. And I had 4 different doctors, without hearing the other one say it, tell me the care provider goes first. So you have to take care of yourself in a whole new way. And whatever that journey looks like, to be so kind and gentle with yourself, and it's okay. You'll be okay.
That is excellent wisdom. So I know you have already talked a whole bunch about the research and everything, but is there anything else that we need to know about what you do or what you're promoting?
So I really help people. One, I help people get out of pain. 2, I help people with their health optimally, both physical and mental. There are so many. There are a variety of different patches. There's a patch that actually reduces inflammation. Inflammation eats up stem cells. When you're 30, half of your stem cells are dormant. I know you're just about a little older than that. Not too much though.
Thank you.
And when you're 60, they're almost all dormant. So they're in there, but they're not working for you. And so what I love about this technology is it can activate those dormant stem cells and actually regenerate. And it also resets 4,000 genes to their younger, healthier state in the first 24 hours. So what I like to help people with is, you tell me what your symptoms are, what your issues are, and then I say, these are the patches, and it can be just 1, it can be 2, that would be best for you in helping you resolve your issue. And to think about the fact that we can get people out of pain in 1 minute. 15. I patched a woman this week who was 77. She'd been in, and I asked her, what is her pain level? 15. 1 to 10, pain was a 15. We dropped it to 1 in 15 seconds. And that's how effective. I know it is better. I did the same thing with my mom. My mom came out of surgery. She was in excruciating pain, and they, with all the drugs they'd given her, she was still at an 8 in her pain scale. And I patched her and got it to a 0. And she never asked for a Tylenol again. Like, she never asked for a pain med again. And it's really, there are people who have addictions. There are people who don't do drugs very well. I'm one of the people who drugs, Vicodin, Percocet, morphine, they just don't work on me. They don't work on me. I had an anesthesiologist after surgery say, I've given you enough to put down a small elephant. I'm like, not nice. And sorry, but it's not working. Like, it's not like I'm a drug addict and I've been, I was in the military. Like, I have a clean slate. You can check my urine samples. But no, it was, so the pain relief is phenomenal. And then the ability to give people better sleep and more energy and improve sports performance and better recovery and better skin and less wrinkles and improve body tone. Like, we actually have patches that help you reduce fat and increase muscle and improve bone density. So there are just, all of these things are phenomenal. And what I love to do is to help people with that. So people can reach out to me and have free consultation, because this is my passion. There is just
I can tell
than helping people with their health, because I get these amazing texts all the time from, the guy who was the only guy that survived the blowing up of a helicopter crash and broke his back in multiple places and was in a coma for multiple months. Like, it's to that extreme. To other people, I had this testimony from a friend who said, Darlene, I've been on the patches 1 month and my blood pressure stabilized in the 130s after being over 170 for a year. My right knee pain and swelling is gone. My allergy attacks are gone. My vertigo stopped. My tinnitus stopped. My acid reflux stopped. I've lost 5 pounds. And I'm doing laps in the pool every day without any sore muscles, fatigue, or sunburning. And I was just like, oh my gosh, do you want to do a testimonial for me? Because I have like these little 1-minute testimonials. And she said, no, not yet. When are my wrinkles going to go away? And I'm like, I love that. I love that but it's going to take a little, the fact that you've had all those things happen in a month is amazing. We recommend that you patch for a month for every decade you are old to get all of those cells regenerated and rejuvenated.
Okay.
And again, you wear it 12 hours on, 12 hours off. There's a little bit more life in the patch than 12 hours, but we don't want, We don't want your body to get used to the signal and then not respond anymore. And the lab results, they have found that that's actually, it's better to do 12 hours than 24/7. And we do put them on pets. There's a whole line of products for pets. So we had a dog who was completely paralyzed. The vet said, sorry, there's nothing we can do for them. And the parents pouched him. And 3 days later, the dog is walking and running around like a puppy. So, and I have other, cat stories, goat stories, horse stories. There's a ton of animal stories.
That is amazing.
Love it.
And I love hearing how passionate you are, right? Like that's just it. You're passionate. So how do people connect with you?
So my website is IamReverseAging.com. So that's IamReverseAging. IamReverseAging.com. They can see the studies. They can see those EEGs I was talking about, the actual pictures. They can see the patent. They can listen to videos, 2-minute videos on how this works. They can see an animal video on an animal getting out of pain. They can see testimonials.
Lots of things.
Look at all the 90 clinical studies.
Awesome.
I would love for them to reach out.
Yeah, excellent. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all of that with us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Randi-lee, for all of that you're doing with your podcast. You are destigmatizing mental health and making it something that people can talk about. And I don't think anybody can go through their entire life without at any point having anxiety or pain and depression ever, right? You're not living life if you don't have some moment where you've lost something that's meaningful to you. So I appreciate that you're doing such a great job on that, and what you're putting out in the world is very valuable. So thank you.
Thanks. As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media because we have some great new shows coming up and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.